Yes, that means it's the Clinton area Showboat Theater. We're going to be talking Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Matthew Teague Miller with us, and others from the cast. We'll get to that in a moment. Matthew, you wrap things up. Blithe Spirit. You put that in the books. How do you wrap up a show and then move on to the next one? You directed that one. You're directing this one. How do you put it behind you and then move on?
Yeah, well, I mean, and it even overlaps too, right? So it's like there's no rest for the weary in summer theater. It's hard. I was sad to see Blithe Spirit close because it was a show that I had been looking forward to direct for so long, and I just was so proud of what we put together. I thought the design team and the actors really put together a beautiful show that I was incredibly proud of. So that was it was difficult. It was bittersweet because we did get to move on to Joseph now. But the Joseph rehearsals were going on while Blithe Spirit was performing. So we were kind of wearing two hats at the same time. There were only about three or four actors that were in both, but I was directing both, and I haven't done that. As far as I can remember, at the Showboat, I've directed multiple shows in a season, but I've never gone back to back. And so I went back to back with those two, and now I'm actually doing Tommy too. So I don't know what I'm doing. I like to work hard, I suppose.
We may have talked about this before, but Giveaway says you're directing the show, and any director, whether it's you or somebody else, I just notice sometimes the director, and you've had guest directors in before, the show opens and the director leaves town. Yeah. How does that work? Don't you? And I actually saw you leave the Showboat one niit when the show was on. How do you just walk away and not watch every performance for every nuance? How is that? It's not just. I think every director kind of follows the same thing.
Yeah, well, I am a director that watches most of the performances of the show. Well, for 2-week runs like we have here at the Showboat, I will watch most of the performances of the shows that I have directed. But technically, in sort of the power structure and how theater works and stuff, once a show is open, the director's job is technically done, and it's the stage manager's job to maintain the show that the director and the cast and the design team put together during the rehearsal process. So sometimes it's actually good for a director to step away because sometimes we want to continue to tweak and it's hard to be a director and sit and watch a show and see something that you'd like to change, and technically you're not really supposed to do a lot of changes once the show is open. So when guest directors see opening night and then get on a plane the next day, that's industry standard. That's I sit in the back because I love the theater that I get to create with the people that I love in the cast and the design team. And I will occasionally give a note here or there when people start to stray from what we did in the rehearsal process. But my job is done once the show is open as the director.
Hey, Joseph.
Yeah.
We know you've talked about it before. You've done the show. You've seen the show. You've been in the show.
Yeah. I love the show.
Have you directed the show before?
I have. My relationship with Joseph started when I was still in high school and was just getting started as a theater kid. The first time I worked on the show, I was a follow spot operator for a community production that I just absolutely fell in love with it and was in the back focusing the lights on Joseph and Pharaoh and the narrator singing along with the show because I just loved it so much. And then when I got into college, it was one of the first college productions that I did, and then I ended up getting cast in a Los Angeles area tour as Joseph, so I played it multiple times. And then in the next chapter of my life, I was when I was teaching at a college prep high school in Northern California, one of the first shows I produced and I directed as an educator. And then when I started to transition into professional directing and producing, it was the first show that I produced as a professional too, and had Broadway actors in it. So every phase of my career, Joseph has been a part of it. So all the way back to when I was 14 years old. So that was a few years ago. I'm not going to tell you how many. No, I'm 42, so it was however many. I can't do math. So was that 28?
Just say a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. So it's a show that's definitely close to my heart. Joseph's coat is made of a bunch of different colors and sort of feels like this patchwork of colors and almost like a quilt. And in a lot of ways, that's what Joseph is to me. The production of the show is to me. It's like I got a little emotional the first time we ran the show because I was seeing all of the faces of the directors and the actors and the designers that I had done the show with over the course of the last 25 years. And it's just really near and dear to my heart in that way. And the fact that we're doing that in the first year as an equity theater, year, 30th anniversary of the theater company. It's really an exciting sort of another landmark moving forward in my career that yet Joseph is here again.
And maybe you talked about this with Josh and Sydney and the rest of the cast. Is this production, you directing this different every time you do it? Is it the same thing? You know, you played Joseph. Are you directing Joseph the way you played it, the way you want to play it? How do you do that with the show that you've been you talk about so involved? Is it different each time that you do it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely different each time you do it. But at the same time, I gave a special thanks in the program to the 3 directors that directed me in the show, because there are definitely little pieces of their productions that I was a part of, you know, embedded into our production, little moments or a cross or a dance step or something. I mean, they're all, those productions are just like the patchwork of Joseph's coat. Those productions are embedded all over the place in my production, which I will say all 3 times that I directed have been significantly different, because it continues to grow and change, just like, you know, any living thing.
You sit there and go, I could do Joseph better. We got Joseph here.
Better than Josh? Oh no, I can't sing like that anymore. But you know, I definitely feel like I feel a connection to that role, and I feel a connection to the actor that's playing that role. I mean, Josh and I have become very good friends right out of the gate. You know, only having met each other recently, we have the same alma mater, so we have a connection in that way too. And you know, that dreamer, that optimistic, earnest young man that looks at the world and sees all the possibilities and dares to dream. I definitely see myself in that. I see myself in that from when I first played the role, from when I was a follow spot operator, and I dreamt of being in the show one day, and then when I played the role, and I dreamt of, you know, being a professional one day. I think that optimistic, earnest, dare to dream spirit is definitely who I am, even though I'm 42 years old, and I continue to, about to turn 42 years old, and I continue to look at all of the possibilities. So it's definitely close to my heart, and the fact that Josh is playing this role, Broadway's Josh Daniels is playing this role. You know, it's super exciting to have this connection to the actor that's playing that role too, because he's bringing his own take to this iconic role that I have such a connection to.
Josh, grab the mic. Tell us a bit about Josh Daniel, right?
Yes, that's me.
And how did you end up here? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. So I, like Maddie said, we share an alma mater. We both went to the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, which is a mouthful, so we just say CCM. And yeah, one of my best friends, Katie Johannigman, choreographed here at the Showboat last year, and was like, hey, you know, this theater is, you know, in its journey is now becoming an equity, the Union Theater, you know, they're looking for someone to play Joseph. Connected me and Maddie. We had a ton of great phone conversations, and then I flew out to Clinton, Iowa, and here I am.
Well, you say Broadway.
Broadway.
How'd you end up there? How's Josh's path to Broadway?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I grew up doing theater. You know, I had my mother who was coming to Clinton to see the show, because your mom still sees shows even when you're approaching 30.
Is she going to be at the opening?
She will be at the opening night. So not the opening day, but opening night. Yeah. Yeah, I grew up doing theater, went to school in Cincinnati, and then at the end of our 4 years, at schools like the one I went to and the one Sydney is currently at, do a showcase in New York, where you perform basically 2 numbers in front of casting directors and agents and all, you know, New York types, whatever. I did 2 songs, one of which was from a show called The Book of Mormon, and then the next day I had my first audition for the show, and about 2 months later was shipping off to Washington, D.C. to join the national tour. And did that for 2 years, and then transitioned to the Broadway company.
You actually sang Book of Mormon in the showcase?
I did, yeah.
I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool. That was left out of the story.
Oh, yeah. No, I fully, yeah. Well, because I was like, I know myself, know that this is a show that I want to be in, that I think I, you know, am viable for.
Sure.
And so,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so I did it.
Book of Mormon. How's that show? You did that for how long?
I did it. I always say I did it for 4 years, which is so I did 2 Mormon missions, which is how I quantified that. And it was absolutely amazing. It's an amazing show. It was super fun to tour and to do on Broadway and to, you know, experience, especially on the road, how different audiences react to the show. You know, it's very in your face, but also very fun. Like, I think a really special show, and one I'm really proud to have been a part of. So,
Have you been in Joseph before?
I've
Seemed
been
like
in-
a common show.
I've been in Joseph, but I've never played Joseph. So this is my first time playing the part, which is really fun and awesome.
How's that been? You come in and Matthew's directing the show. How do you step into that role?
I think that Joseph and Joseph and I overlap a lot, and sort of some of the characteristics Maddie was saying. I think those make sense to me as a person as well. That sort of Pollyanna, sort of optimistic, outlook on the world and life and whatnot. So it's been fun to bring a lot of myself to the part, but also, bring a lot of, to find things in the room with amazing actors like Sydney and the rest of the company. And that's the real fun part of theater, is the parts that you don't, plan or expect or, dream up before you get in the room. It's just, being in the room with other actors and minds and hearts at play, telling the story is where the real fun comes.
Living in New York, how's that? How's working in Broadway? Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Sure.
Just living in New York.
Just living in New York?
Yeah.
It's great. I love it personally. I'm from New Orleans originally, and New Orleans is very laid back. We're very. It's a little. The tempo is not quite as fast. I'm sure you and your listeners can tell how fast I talk at this point, so it does not make as much sense for me to live in New Orleans as it does in New York, where my tempo kind of matches the rest of the city, or vice versa, I guess. But I love it. I love living in a city as diverse and lively, and there are people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, colors, creeds, everything. It's completely amazing.
Summer theater, you come in here, do one show. How's it been? You've been here for probably what, a week, 10 days rehearsing?
Yeah,
and
literally, think 10 days. Yeah.
How's it been?
It's been great. When I was in school, I did summer theater, in the summers, and, would do what, Sydney and the rest of the professional company are doing, where you are rehearsing for one show in the morning, doing another at night, probably striking it the next week. It's a completely unfathomably crazy schedule. But the amazing part of summer theater is the sort of camaraderie, the community you build. I met my best friend in the world who lives in the same building as me in New York, doing summer theater in the middle of nowhere, Vermont. You know what I mean? It's those sort of stories that experiences that remind me of the why behind why we do theater and stuff. So
does it come back to that you're out here? Does that kind of reinforce? Yeah, this is something to do.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, you mean what the sort of
Just
why I love theater?
coming back to a summer theater, to a out of New York, and kind of back to the basics.
Absolutely, yeah. New York. When you're doing a show on Broadway, you do it 8 times a week, and it's work. You come in, you see people that you work with, and it's obviously a very. Theater is always a sort of loving and accepting and sort of a tight-knit community, but there's something about summer theater and summer stock that is so even more special. You truly form a true family. It's really awesome.
You're living with the company and
Yeah.
working with the company and playing with the company and
Exactly.
having birthday parties with the company.
Exactly, yes.
And are you now? Do you see yourself as the mentor to these young actors? Do you bring in that aura that you see yourself as that? Do you want to do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would hope. I mean, humility prevents me from talking too much about what anything I would impart to to the rest of the company. But
we'll get Sydney's take on that.
Yeah. It's just Sydney's oh God. No, it's been really special to sort of. I was talking to my boyfriend a few days ago on the phone about it's been really special to feel that sort of loop. I remember when I got here, I remember being exactly where they are and looking up to people who would come in and sort of do. Be the guest star in a show or whatever, and it's really kind of weird to be on the other side. It was kind of jarring to sort of feel that that loop happen, but it's been really amazing, and I've learned as much from them as I hope they've learned from my experiences and what I've been
From
able
my
to,
vantage point, I mean, as a producing artistic director, I couldn't have asked for a better role model for our young company. Josh is so positive. He's incredibly talented, obviously, but he brings a kindness and a joy into the room and a professionalism to the room that I think we can all learn from. So, I didn't get to test that before he showed up. We had a couple phone conversations and became buddies, but he has been an incredible mentor in all of those ways to our company.
We didn't get to ask David Coolidge that last time he was in.
Yeah.
But it's the same kind of thing there. Obviously, you've known him for a long time.
Sure.
You knew what he was bringing. Did he have that same
Yeah,
same
he did. I mean,
demeanor?
the thing about David is he's also a professor, so he works with college age actors all of the time. So that was a much easier transition. And there were only four of our resident company. Four of our resident company in that show. Josh has got the entire company and that looking up to him and working alongside him, and he really has he has been such a kind and positive spirit. Just a joy to have here at the Showboat.
I just passed $10 to Maddie for saying that under the table.
No.
I'm kidding.
He might hold you to that. You better be careful. But yeah, Sydney, right? Sydney, what's the last name? Howard? Sydney, tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm from Rochester, New York, and I go to Baldwin Wallace University in Cleveland, Ohio.
And you played what in Joseph?
I'm playing the narrator.
Tell us about that particular role as somebody who's not seen Joseph.
Well, the show is set out through a framework of the narrator is telling the story to the audience. And so I'm playing the storyteller, the narrator. And it's kind of a unique role in that I'm not really part of the action, but kind of the way we've staged it, I'm also a big part of it, like interacting with all the characters, like the bridge between the audience, real world, and the story.
How do you do that? What do you like? How do you do that role?
Well, my take on it, when I first saw the show, I saw the role as American Idol star, kind of holding a microphone the entire time doing it as a rock concert. And what's a great thing about Joseph is that it can be done in any way. It has a lot of universality, the show. And kind of my take on narrator is I was just kind of trying to do it, bring myself to it. Like you were saying with Joseph, because I think a person has to have a really good personal reason to want to tell a story about a dreamer and overcoming all the odds. And the way we've set it up, I'm saying it to children, trying to kind of inspire them.
Obviously, is Matthew letting you do the role you thought you wanted, the way you wanted to do it when you came in, or did he change direction to go, no, you need to do it another way?
No, absolutely. You've just kind of, what's wonderful about Maddie's directing, it's all collaboration, so our ideas are all expected and viable, and we use them, and it's really free environment to create our own.
And wait till people hear her sing this role, too. I mean, Sydney's got pipes for days. If anybody that was at the 4th of July celebration yesterday heard her sing the national anthem at the band shell to kind of kick things off, she is an incredible singer. We couldn't have asked for a stronger singer for this particular role that is so vocally demanding. I mean, it's really, really hard, and she is absolutely doing it justice.
I mean, it's both as Sydney, when you audition, I know we talked about the audition process, and you auditioned, Matthew was there, probably others. Was this one of the roles that you wanted, where you go, I want to be the narrator in Joseph? Has that been kind of one of the roles you wanted to play, or have you played it before?
No, I have not. Funny enough, when I first saw the show, I thought to myself, oh, I could never play that part. And so I was so surprised when he offered me the role, but as I looked into it more and more, I realized this is something really special, and I'm having so much fun with it.
Now, have you been in any of the shows yet? What do you got coming up? There's shows left.
I was in A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, and I'm also going to be in Tommy and Shout.
Okay. And you enjoyed your summer so far? Have you done the summer theater before, or your first time around?
This is my first time doing summer stock, and I'm loving every single second of it. It's such a special environment, as they were saying, and it's better than I could have ever asked for. Love it.
Think you can take something back?
Yes, absolutely. So much.
And we asked Josh about being a bit of a mentor. Do you learn anything from him, or you just kind of is he just there?
Absolutely. As Maddie was saying, he brings such a great attitude and professionalism into the rehearsal room, and it's but at the same time, you're also so approachable. And because I thought, oh, if there's this Broadway actor coming in and I'm playing this giant role with him, I feel so unqualified. But you're amazing, and also a peer.
Yeah,
which I think is a really
that's
special
great.
thing.
I love hearing that too.
And doing the role, and again, maybe Josh, you talk about this. Of course, you're doing a short term. You got to get out there. You got to do the role. 2 shows on Saturday and multiple shows. What, a 3-week run?
Yeah.
How do you get prepared for all of that? As Matthew said, it's a big role. I think the narrator is on the stage for the entire show or most of the
Most
entire
of it,
show.
yeah.
So you carry the show.
Yeah, a lot of lyrics.
That's true.
So many.
So many lyrics.
So we have a cue card in the back for you.
Sometimes that might be nice, but it's okay. We're working on it. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, I did quite a bit of work beforehand, before coming, and I think that's what everyone who comes into this at Clinton, we've all just been prepared before rehearsals start, and we're supposed to be off book, and that's been what's been happening.
Now, the show opens Saturday afternoon. That could be a little, maybe also says, usually you get geared up for the premiere performance. The opening is a nighttime show. I was saying the opening is a Saturday afternoon. Is that hard? It's like, oh, it's a Saturday afternoon and this is the first show. Is that going to be a little unusual?
It's unusual, but I don't know that it's necessarily any more of a challenge.
Right.
There's such an excitement to opening a show, especially one that there's so much joy in. I mean, everybody in the show is having fun, and I think that transcends the stage and will affect the audience's experience too. I mean, we could do this show at 3 o'clock in the morning and have as much fun and be just as excited to open it. I mean, that's my vantage point, but I'm just going to watch on opening night. I do a curtain speech, a really, really good curtain speech. but I mean, would you guys agree with that?
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, anybody in the Showboat that they've been before, they know your curtain speech.
They're legendary.
They're legendary. And sometimes the show gets delayed a long time because of his curtain speech.
Well,
If-
there might be a wink to that.
if you haven't been there before, Sydney's seen it before. So anybody who's been knows that sometimes they.
I got a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm really excited. Come on, man. At least I'm energetic.
After Josh, after Joseph, you're done. Then what do you go do?
I head back to New York. So I'm doing a reading of a new musical when I get back. Which I was saying before. Talking to Sydney and Maddie is one of my favorite parts of living in New York is getting to do new work, and obviously Joseph's been around for a long time, but in the city, new Josephs are being written every day, and so it's cool to be in some of varying degrees of readiness to be performed on a stage in front of an audience, but always of similar degrees of excitement to get to do new stuff and get to do what I love the most.
Sydney, after you get done, back to Baldwin Wallace. I got to. What last year, senior, going back to senior?
I'm going into my senior year, so that's kind of the finish line for the 4 years, and we go to New York City, like you were mentioning, showcase, and then our kind of expected path is to move to New York City, and yeah.
So she'll be moving in with Josh. He doesn't know that yet.
Contractually.
Oh, you've heard about New York City housing. So
That's right. That's right.
Well,
you know
Forward to
that.
that.
I know that intimately. Yes.
And you go back. What do you hope to take out of your summer theater experience here in Clinton? What do you think? Can you quantify that yet?
Well, we were actually talking about this right before coming in, how summer theater is kind of a chance to really practice what we will learn at school and to just kind of put it all into use. And so I'm just kind of hoping to feel more comfortable as a performer with so much practicing and rehearsing and performing over the summer just nonstop. And just, yeah.
Matthew, you've got Broadway performer Josh.
Yeah.
You talk about Sydney. What makes an actor stand out on the stage? People who've gone to theater, sometimes they see, especially in summer theater, where you see the same person multiple different shows.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
sometimes an actor walks on stage, I think, and whether they're a major role or a minor role, people see them. People watch that performer, however big the role is. Because you got standouts.
yeah. So it's funny you should ask, because I actually wrote an article about this. You like to ask me about the articles that I write online sometimes, and I wrote an article on Onstage Blog a couple of years ago called a Professor's Guide, a Professor's Recipe to Musical Theater Stage Presence, or something like that. I can't remember. I should probably remember since I'm quoting it on the air. But I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think that energy is a huge part of it, and I call it the musical theater twinkle. There's a twinkle. there's a hopeful twinkle in a musical theater performer's eye when they're really connecting to material. I think that it's about commitment and focus. I can't remember all 8 of the elements that I wrote in the article, so Google it now, everybody at home that's listening. Recipe, a professor's recipe to stage presence, and I think it's a lot of things. But I also think that there's something about being on stage and loving the moment that you're living that is really extraordinarily important in musical theater. And something that I talk about a lot in my direction and also when I'm teaching is that one of the things that makes musical theater different than most of the other art forms that we're enjoying or entertainment forms that we're enjoying right now is that it's right there, it's live. The audience is having an experience and connecting with the people on stage while they're performing. So I think finding ways to connect with the audience through eye contact and that joy is really important to what we do as musical theater practitioners. I think it's what separates us from, people staying at home and watching Netflix or playing video games or all of those other things that we do sort of in the privacy of our homes. We go out into the world as an audience and we sit together facing the same direction and have an emotional, entertaining experience together and connect with the people on stage. So, having somebody stand out on stage sometimes is having that person be an open enough human being to allow the audience into that experience that I think is extraordinarily important and something that we focus on a lot in my direction and in my teaching.
Josh, do you see the same kind of thing? That, there are some times, and maybe it's been you, that people see they can't take their eyes out. No matter what the role is, they just watch that person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Maddie is saying, I echo all of that and agree with. And I think that a lot of it is like you can't. My favorite performers are people that I've been like, oh, those people stand out. I think you can tell that they are so comfortable with who they are as a human on and off stage and are sort of like fully actualized versions of themselves. We haven't found a way to extricate the human being from the character quite yet. You know what I mean? Like if you're on stage, it's me, Josh Daniel, playing Joseph. There's no way to subtract so much of me that I would exit the stage, you know what I mean, as my spirit and sort of like personality and whatnot. So I think a lot of when someone stands out, I think you see someone who's really comfortable with who they are, proud of who they are, is willing to beef up the parts of them that overlap with that character and then play with the parts of them that maybe they don't get to experience as much in their offstage lives as they do in that onstage moment.
Cindy, can you take some of that back with you to college? Or are you the person that everybody watches?
Oh, well, I mean, I can't say that. I don't know. I'm not watching myself. But I think I love that whole idea of using every part of yourself, even the parts that don't really overlap with the character. I hadn't really thought about that part before, so just that.
Yeah, see, she's learning stuff on the air.
On the air. Listeners are too,
the master class never ends.
We're not an educator, but hey.
We're budding actors listening to this, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Well, certainly the audience sometimes, I think, wonders how this happens. Because they don't know, sometimes I don't think, they don't know why or whatever that somebody catches their eye.
It's so interesting that you asked this question with this particular show because I'm going to tell you a true story. Our dress rehearsal on Wednesday night, our box office staff came because they always see the show like before it's open so that when people ask questions, they can answer the questions honestly. And our box office manager, Chris Doss, who's been a part of the Showboat family for years, everybody that knows the Showboat knows Chris, he came to me at intermission and he said, few times in my life have I seen a performer explode off of the stage and be as honest and sincere on the stage as Josh Daniel. He's like, there is something so special about this performer. Thank you for bringing him to the Showboat. He said that to me at intermission. So he saw the second act.
Right. I take it back.
So that's the very thing the thing that you're asking about is exactly what Chris was commenting about Josh in just on Wednesday night before last. So there you go.
I'll say Tommy's next when you start rehearsals for that. Of course, you got a three-week run on Joseph.
We do.
They got a little.
We
little
do,
time.
but with all of these extra Saturday matinees and things, you know, the rehearsal process isn't actually that much longer because of how intense the performance schedule is for Joseph. We start on Sunday. I'm super pumped about this show. I've started working on it with the design team. I mean, we started talking about the design in November. So this is a show that people are going to love. You know, it's based on the 1969 concept album. People know the music already, and it's going to really talk about exploding off the stage. It's going to rock.
Now, see, you're directing 3 shows this summer.
Yeah, what was I thinking?
What shows are you going to direct next year?
There, I was waiting for the ask. Well, if you buy a ticket to the season announcement follies, which is the last Tuesday in July, I think it's the 30th, you will find out the same time everyone else does.
They didn't know that was coming.
No, but I did.
You don't know when, you don't know where.
Yeah, but you sneak it in.
Get your ticket now. Better hurry because...
Yeah, Joseph is selling really, really fast. I will say that we have a holiday special today only for tomorrow's performances, because we really think it's a great opportunity for families to continue the holiday weekend extravaganza. So we're selling family bunches for tickets of 4 for the price of 3. Buy 3 tickets and get 1 free for Saturday's 2 performances only. You have to call the box office or go into the box office directly to get that special, but it's only available today. So if you're looking for something to do tomorrow after finally Friday night and all those festivities yesterday, buy 3 tickets, get 1 free.
Get 1 free, so head on down, talk to Chris at the box office.
That's right, Chris Doss.
See if the second act was as good as...
Yeah, it is, I promise.
Ask in person.
Yeah.
Ask Chris in person.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Cindy, for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.